Good evening, Amrita. We're about to start with the next concept in capital structure, that is leverage analysis. There was one question in the last class which I had not taken up. I think let me take up that question first and then we move to the concepts of leverage analysis. Yes. In the last class, we were discussing about Modigliani-Miller approach for capital structure, and we discussed it in two ways. One, we said when Modigliani-Miller had taken an assumption that there are no corporate taxes, and then we refuted that assumption, and we understood that if the corporate taxes do exist, in that situation, Modigliani-Miller agreed that the value of a firm can increase by adding debt to the capital structure. I hope you remember. We also did a practical question on the same. Good evening, Ganesh, and good evening, Dipali. So, any questions on the concepts that we have discussed so far? Any doubts? I think we can start. As I said in the last class, we discussed about Modigliani-Miller approach, and we discussed the concept of arbitrage in the Modigliani-Miller approach. Now today I am presenting the same concept to you, but in a mirror image. So that is why I said that I would be discussing a question which was becoming a little too much for that particular day, so we had postponed it for today. Now, following is the data regarding two companies, Company A and Company B. They belong to the same risk class. Number of equity shares in Company A are 1 lakh, and in Company B are 2 lakhs. Market price per share for Company A is 15 rupees and Company B is 7 rupees. Debentures are there in Company A for rupees 2 lakhs, which are not there in Company B. And profit before interest is rupees 1,20,000 in both the companies. Now both the companies are identical in all respects except for the leverage. In case of Company A, they've got a debt of rupees 2 lakhs. But in case of Company B, they've got an additional equity of rupees 1 lakh. Right? Dividend payout ratio is 100%. Explain how under Modigliani and Miller approach, Ramesh, an investor holding 10% shares in Company A, will be better off in switching his holding to Company B. So Ramesh has got his investment in Company A. We have to understand that how he would be making profit by doing an arbitrage if he decides to sell the shares of Company A and buy the shares of Company B. He is holding 10% shares in Company A. Is it clear? Is the question clear? We have been given profit before interest. So in order to find out, what would be the benefit, let us first assume that he sells the shares. So 10% shares means that he would be selling 10,000 shares at the price of rupees 15. Right? Right? So he gets 1,50,000 rupees. He gets 1,50,000 rupees. Now what he has to do, he has to switch his investment from Company A to Company B. Now when he decides to switch it to Company B, if he wants to buy 10% shares in company B, that 10% of company B is equals to 20,000 shares. Is equals to 20,000 shares. And the market price per share is 7 rupees. Market price per share is 7 rupees. So he would be able to get these shares for 1,40,000 only. Right? He can get these shares for 1,40,000. Is it clear? Further, in case of company B has not taken any loan. So, and company A had taken loans also. So he can also take a loan because company A would be paying interest which company B is not paying. So in this situation, let me explain the situation to you. Here both the firms have got the same earning before interest and taxes. But in case of company A is paying interest of rupees 20,000 which is not being paid by company B. So company A has got a remaining profit of rupees 1 lakh which is to be distributed amongst the shareholders, and company B is distributing 1,20,000 among the shareholders. Right? Now when Ramesh sells his 10% shares in company A and he buys the shares of company B, he would be getting a dividend of rupees 12,000 as compared to 10,000. So this 2,000 is something which he is receiving extra. Assuming that he takes a loan at the rate of 10% of rupees 20,000 so that his net income becomes equal. So in this situation, he is better off because even after paying interest on rupees 20,000, he has got 10,000 extra because he has sold the shares for rupees 1,50,000 and is buying the shares for rupees 1,40,000. So 10,000 he has been able to save there, and 20,000 rupees he can take an additional loan because he's got an additional income of rupees 2,000 which can go as an interest for this particular loan. So he is better off because now he has got 30,000 rupees extra which he can invest anywhere and make good profit out of it. Are you able to follow this concept? So in the last class when I discussed with you Modigliani Miller approach, he had taken a loan to buy the shares. Here he has sold the shares where he's got a surplus. Right? So the situation was slightly opposite of what we had discussed in the last class. In the last class, the shares of the company, the company which had got a higher market price per share, the shares of that particular company were sold. Here we have been told to sell the shares of company A and buy the shares of company B. So we are selling the shares whose market price is higher and buying the shares whose market price is lower, and still we are able to make a profit out of it. Right? Because arbitrage possibilities can be there in any situation. Fine with us? Any questions? I hope everybody has been able to understand. I'm not getting any responses here. Dipali, Ganesh, Abhishek, is the question clear? Amrita? We have all the sleeping members in the class. We're all sleeping? The question is clear. Okay. So, having discussed all the three approaches, some confusion regarding that interest. Yeah, that's why I was not able to move to the next topic. See, the thing is, you can, even if you don't take this loan, then you've got an additional income. Now, this is clear that if he buys the shares of company B, 10% shares for rupees 1,40,000, he is able to get a dividend of rupees 12,000. This is clear? Yes. Now, if we want to give him, if we want the two things to be comparable, so what we do, we say that, okay, let us bring the two levels of income at one level. Right? So, rather than giving him how 12,000 dividends, see, he is buying 10,000 shares. He is buying 10% shares. So he would be entitled to 10% of 1,20,000, which is profit before interest, because there is no loan in this company, so there would not be any interest liability. But in case of company A, because they've taken a loan, so from this profit before interest, they would be paying 10% interest on 2 lakh of debentures. So that makes it 1 lakh. So now his income has increased from 10,000 to 12,000. If we want to bring the level of income to the same point, because Modigliani Miller actually talks about a personal leverage for the purpose of arbitrage. Personal leverage means that he has to take a loan in his own name rather than being in a company, rather than investing in a company which has taken a loan. We suggest that the investor should take a loan. So therefore, in this particular situation, we recommend him to take a loan of rupees 20,000, because then his income would be same in both the companies and he would be having a surplus amount with him which he can invest and make more profits out of it. Or with this 30,000 we can rather ask him to buy more shares of company B or whatever, right? So after having discussed all these theories of capital structure, now today I am moving to a very interesting and from the examination point of view, a very important concept of leverage, because in 90% of the situations we have been getting one question from leverage analysis in the last exam. In last, I can say all the attempts I've seen 1 or 2 questions coming from leverage analysis. A very interesting concept, and a concept which can be practically used in life also. What is this concept of leverage? See, when we talk about leverage, rather than going to the concept, let me first give you a very small example. Supposing there was a lady, and this lady was a very good teacher, so she used to take tuition classes at home. Okay. Now, in these tuition classes, she used to get, assuming 10 students in a batch, or no, 10 would be too much. Okay, let me take 5 students in a batch, and for an hour, and she used to earn 1,000 rupees from each student, so she was earning 5,000 rupees, right? She used to teach for an hour and she used to earn these 5,000 rupees. Is it fine with us? Right? Now, supposing this lady decides to, and for the entire day, she used to do her household jobs and, doing everything, cooking, cleaning, whatever. And in the evening, she used to work for an hour and earn these 5,000 rupees. Supposing what she does, she hires a servant and pays an amount of rupees 5,000 per month to the servant. And now she has 4 hours extra for teaching. So how much she would be able to earn? If she is able to get the same kind of a business, then she would be able to earn 20,000 rupees, and her expense has increased by only 5,000 rupees. So she has got a benefit of 15,000 rupees by doing this. She's got a benefit of 15,000 rupees by doing it. Now this is called the concept of operating leverage. Now what does this mean? It says that by adding a small fixed cost to your business. Now this servant is a fixed cost. Whether or not she gets, whether or not she gets 20 additional students or not, she will have to pay these 5,000 rupees to the servant, isn't it? Whether or not she has been able to utilize these 4 hours for extra teaching or not, she will have to pay this 5,000 rupees to the servant. Now, it may happen that during a particular month she has got only 10 students. There might be months where she would have only 15 students or 8 students, but still, or maybe 2 students, but still she has to pay this 5,000 rupees to the servant, right? This is called the concept of operating leverage. where we add a small amount of fixed cost to increase our earnings before interest and taxes by a multiple. To increase our, so in this particular case, she has been able to increase her earning before interest and taxes to a multiple of 3 times. So her operating leverage in the given situation is equals to 3. Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay. Now this can also happen, now supposing now she wants to further increase her tuition center, because now she had 20 students in her classes, so she was finding it to be a space constraint that if she has to increase the number of students to say 50 or 200, in that situation she needs some extra space, right? So for that she's got 2 choices. She can either take an institute on rent, or she can take a loan and buy an institute of her own, right? She can buy a place for herself. So initially, assuming that when the numbers were increasing, she took a place on rent. Of rupees 10,000, right? And she realized that by going to this particular place, she would be able to increase the number of students to say 50. Now 50 multiplied by 1000 is equals to 50,000. And she's got a fixed cost of 10,000 for the rent and 5,000 for the servant, so 15,000. This is equals to 35,000. Now she has been again able to increase her earnings before interest and taxes to 35,000. So just by adding the rent of 10,000 rupees, she has been able to increase her earnings by 20,000 rupees. So now at this particular situation, she has again been able to double her profits. Are you following? So what do we mean by operating leverages? When we add a fixed cost to our business to increase the income by a multiple of that fixed cost, right? So to an extent that we are just able to get if we are able to increase our income just by the same amount, we are at a no profit no loss situation. But the idea of operating leverage is to add the fixed cost so as to increase the profits by a multiple of the fixed cost, right? Now she feels that the business is doing real good and she wants to further expand, and she decides that let me now buy a place for myself, because this kind of a system is not working, and we should have a place of our own. Now in order to have a place of her own, she has to take a loan. So she decided to take a loan. Yeah, as I said, there is no surety. There is a risk. Definitely, yes. There is always a risk. But if you take this risk, the thing is that if you take this risk, then there is a chance that you can increase. If we will have a space constraint always, how will we increase the number of students to 50? Right? In order to take a chance, we have taken a place on rent, and then because we are expecting that we would be able to increase the number of students, maybe that we expected them to increase to 70, but we have been able to increase them to 50 only. Or maybe that we were expecting them to increase to 50, we were not even able to get anything. So that is where we have to talk about the risk. When we are talking about operating leverage in itself, if you talk about the term leverage is a very, very clear indication of risk, right? So here also you are taking a risk, that by adding a fixed cost you are taking a risk, but if you are able to actually increase your turnover by doing this, then this particular leverage pays you in a multiple, right? Now, as I said, that this lady now feels that the business is doing real good and she should have a place for herself. So she decided to take a bank loan of say rupees 50 lakhs and buy a place where she will teach. Now, because it will be her own place, and assuming the rate of interest is 10%, so 5 lakh rupees will go in interest. Now she was getting 35,000 rupees per month. Now 35,000 multiplied by 12 would be how much? It would be 360 plus 60. So 4,20,000, if I'm not wrong. Yep. So 4,20,000 she was getting on an annual basis. Now she feels that by taking her own place, assuming that she would be able to increase this to 8,40,000. From 4,20,000, she feels that she would be able to double it. And if she is able to double it in that situation, and she would be able to pay the interest also of 5 lakh rupees, and she would have a net income of 3,40,000. But this interest being a tax deductible expense, so her tax liability will also get reduced, right? So we would be talking about these kinds of concepts when we discuss about the concept of leverage. Now I'll be starting with the concept. Now with this framework, you just try to understand. In business analysis, leverage refers to the relationship between two variables as reflected in a unit change in one variable consequent upon a unit change in another variable. So by making a unit change in fixed cost, if I am able to change my margins in a particular proportion, that is called, this relationship is called the relationship of leverage. As I discussed with you earlier also, in physics also we study the concept of leverage, where we say that when we give the example of a car jack, and we say that if you have to lift up a car with your hands, you would not be able to do it because it requires a lot of effort. But the moment you put a jack under your car and you just apply a small amount of force, you are able to uplift such a heavy car. Similarly, we use this concept of leverage in the concept of finance, where we say that by adding small amount of fixed cost to our business, we would be able to uplift our business, we would be able to increase the earnings of our business to a considerable extent, right? So now leverage, as I said, has got a very, very clear relationship with risk, because by adding a fixed cost in your business, you are increasing risk, right? Now this risk is divided into two parts. One is business risk and another is financial risk. Business risk is where you've taken a risk of taking a place on rent, or hiring some support staff for yourself, whereby you would be able to do better business. This is called business risk, and risk is always there because, as I said, because of competition, because today she's the only person maybe in the complete locality taking the tuitions, but maybe the very next month there might be some competitor who might give her some competition. So in that situation, her business will suffer. Now she's added the fixed cost to her business also. She cannot immediately, vacate the place and close down everything and come back and say that, no, I'm happy with my 10 students. Why should I expect to get 50 or something like that? There's competition, this, that. Once you've taken this call of adding a fixed cost, then that fixed cost has to be paid, because many a times there's a rental agreement for a period of 11 months and you have to pay it for 11 months. So therefore, this is a risk that we take with an anticipation that we would be able to make good profits out of it. So this risk can definitely give you a very high return, but at the same time, this risk has to be taken with some amount of caution. Similarly, when you go and take a bank loan, you have a understanding, or you have an expectation that you would be able to increase the shareholders' wealth, as we have discussed earlier also in various approaches, that by adding debt to the capital structure, we have been able to increase the earnings after taxes and earnings before taxes for the shareholders. But then again, you've taken a financial risk. If the earnings would not be sufficient to pay the interest on loan, then the business might reach the stage of insolvency. So therefore, the leverage as a concept has to be studied as a concept that by taking a small amount of risk, we can really increase our earnings in a multiple. But then we have to take this risk very, very carefully. So this leverage is divided into two parts: operating leverage and financial leverage. We would be discussing about both these leverages in today's class. So what is this operating leverage? Operating leverage is determined by the relationship between firm's sales revenue and its earnings before interest and taxes. It results from the existence of fixed operating expenses in a firm's income stream. Now, when we make a firm's income stream, then I'm sure we did this in the last class also. We said sales minus variable cost is equals to contribution minus fixed cost is equals to earnings before interest and taxes. I hope you remember this format. Sales minus variable cost is equals to contribution minus fixed cost is equals to earnings before interest and taxes. This is one format which has to be, the interrelationships between these various variables should be absolutely clear to you for doing this particular chapter. If I ask you, even in the midnight, I just wake you up and ask you that if I have been given EBIT and if I have to find contribution, what do I do? So you have to tell me in the sleep also that you have to add fixed cost to EBIT to find contribution. You know, that ways all kinds of permutations and combinations should be absolutely clear to you. If I have been given contribution and if I want to know what is sales, what do I do? I will say, you will tell me that, ma'am, please add variable cost to contribution to find out the sales amount, right? So not only from top to bottom, but also from bottom to top, the relationship should be clear. Fine with us? Now, in the operating leverage, what we do, we try to understand the relationship between the sales revenue and its earnings before interest and taxes. It results from existence of fixed operating expenses in the firm's income stream. So it can be defined as the firm's ability to use fixed operating costs to magnify the effects of changes in sales on its earnings before interest and taxes. So what it is saying is that if we can use certain fixed assets, if we can use certain fixed expenses, not fixed assets, if we can use certain fixed expenses to magnify the effect of those fixed costs on the sales, or if we are able to magnify the, because if the sales will increase, fixed costs will remain the same, in that situation over a period of time your earnings before interest and taxes will also increase. So just let me make this clear. Supposing, as I said, look at last example, in this case the lady had got a income of 5,000 per month and she was able to increase it to 20,000 per month by adding a fixed cost of rupees 5,000. Now next month she can even increase the number of students to 22 or to 25, but the fixed cost will remain constant. It will remain at 5,000 only. So what we want to understand is, we want to say that operating leverage is equals to, either you can write sales upon EBIT or you can write contribution upon EBIT, because variable costs will change in proportion of sales. So whether you take sales upon EBIT or you take contribution upon EBIT, the situation or the relationships will not change, right? So but ideally we take contribution upon EBIT. In general we take contribution upon earning before interest and taxes to find out the operating leverage. The formula is contribution upon EBIT. So it is showing you the relationship between two variables which are contribution and EBIT, right? Between these two, contribution and EBIT, the relationship is shown by operating leverage. Clear? Contribution and EBIT, the relationship is shown by operating leverage, because the fixed cost will remain constant. So as contribution will increase, EBIT will also increase. Okay. The next is a financial leverage. Financial leverage gives you the relationship again between EBIT and earnings available for equity shareholders. So now in this particular example we go further. From EBIT, what we did in the last class was, from EBIT we had reduced interest. Then we got profit before taxes, and from that we reduced taxes to find out profits after taxes. If there are no preference dividends, in that situation we assume that the profit after taxes is the earnings which is available for the equity shareholders. If there's going to be preference dividends, then we'll reduce that as well. In general, because the taxes will remain as a percentage only, like the variable cost will always remain as a percentage of sales. So if and the interest amount is going to remain constant, if my EBIT is going to increase, then interest being constant, my profit before tax is also going to increase. right? So if by adding interest in my capital structure, I can increase my profit before tax, and because interest is a tax deductible expense, I would be able to increase my profit after tax also to a greater extent. So therefore, financial leverage shows a relationship between now, the operating leverage showed you the relationship between contribution and EBIT. Financial leverage will show you the relationship between EBIT and profit after tax. The next is the relationship between EBIT and profit after tax. The first was the relationship between contribution and EBIT. Okay? So financial leverage, EBT and PBT are the same. Yes, of course. Earnings before tax or profit before tax, these are used synonymously. Now, financial leverage results from presence of fixed financial charges in a firm's income stream. Financial leverage, fixed financial charges means the interest, because that's a fixed amount. Whether your earnings are 10,000, if you have taken a loan of say rupees 1 lakh at 10%, in that situation, you have to pay interest of rupees 10,000, right? Whether your earnings are 50,000 or a lakh or 5 lakhs, you have to pay interest of rupees 10,000 only. So it's a fixed financial charge, in the firm's income stream. Financial leverage therefore involve use of funds obtained at a fixed cost in anticipation of increasing the return to the equity shareholders. As I discussed with you in the previous classes also, that if I take a loan, then my return to the equity shareholders, it increases considerably by taking a small amount of loan. I hope you remember I discussed this concept initially in the capital structure. So financial leverage can be calculated as EBIT upon EBT. Earnings before interest and taxes divided by earnings before taxes. The higher the degree of financial leverage, the more volatile EPS will be. Higher the degree of financial leverage, because the more the loan you take, the higher the interest would be. And therefore, in that situation, your EPS will also shoot up like anything. Your earning per share will also shoot up like anything. So in order to calculate leverages, we have to calculate contribution margin upon EBIT for calculating the operating leverage. And for financial leverage, we have to calculate EBIT over earnings before taxes. So now, in order to get the benefit of operating leverage, we have to take a business risk. Business risk is because, as I said, that now that she has kept a servant, she has to pay 5,000 rupees to the servant. The number of students may increase, they may not increase. Why the number of students will not increase? Because as I told you that, there might be another teacher who may become very famous in the neighborhood, or there might be that this particular lady herself, she starts developing some physical problems, or she meets with there can be anything, because when we are talking about risk, we can talk about any kind of a risk. It can be physical, it can be because of competition, it can be because of technology, it can be because of availability of resources, it can be any kind of a situation which may lead to, or it can be a recession, or it can that her stuff may become outdated or whatever. So when we talk about business risk is the chance that the firm may not be able to compete successfully with the assets that it has invested in. The firm may acquire a machine, but the machine does not work properly. Or it may produce certain products which cannot be sold in the market. Or it might be facing it may be having labor problems, it may be having resources problems, so which may cause them losses. Right? So because of business risk, there can be a variability in the earnings before interest and taxes. Right? Second risk is the financial risk. The financial risk is that you've taken a loan. But if your cash flows are not sufficient enough to pay the interest, in that situation, that's a financial risk. So, if we have taken a loan, we should have enough earnings before interest and taxes to repay the principal as well as the interest. So, financial risk is the risk because of variability of the earnings per share. Variability of the earning per share is the financial risk, and the variability of earnings before interest and taxes is the operating risk. Right? So that means that with the operating risk or the business risk, you would be having an impact on earnings before interest and taxes. But with the financial risk, you will be having an impact on earning per share or earnings before taxes. Now you have been given some operating data. You have to calculate operating leverage for the two companies. We have ABC Limited and XYZ Limited. Sales have been given to us. Variable expense as a percentage of sales has been given to us, and fixed cost has been given to us. You have to find out the operating leverage. It's a very simple question, and also state which company has got a greater business risk and why. Sales are 40 lakhs. Variable expenses are 40% of sales. So that means 16 lakhs is the variable expenses. So the firm is left with 24 lakhs. Out of that 24 lakhs, 10 lakhs is the fixed cost. So the firm is left with 14 lakhs. Now 14 lakhs is what? 14 lakhs is earnings before interest and taxes. Very good. If I have to find out operating leverage, it will be contribution upon EBIT. Contribution is how much? 26 lakhs. EBIT is 14 lakhs. 24 lakhs divided by 14 lakhs gives me the operating leverage of 1.71. Of 1.71. Right? Similarly, you can find it for the second company. 50 lakhs, variable expenses are 30%. So in that situation, the contribution is 35 lakhs. Out of 35 lakhs, 20 lakhs is your fixed cost. So that makes it 15. So you have 35 divided by 15. Right? Is equal to 2.33. Now if you look at these situations, now how do we interpret this? How do we interpret this? We will say that firm ABC has got a lower degree of operating leverage. It has taken a lower risk. Its fixed cost is very less, is quite less as compared to firm XYZ. So XYZ has got a higher operating leverage. It has got a higher risk. Right? It has got a higher risk. Fine with us? Though it has been able to increase its earning before interest and taxes by 1 lakh rupees, but you can see that when the sales have increased, by almost 25%, earning before interest and taxes has only increased by not even 10%. Sales have increased by 25%, but earning before interest and taxes have increased only by around 9 or 7 or 8%. Now why so? Because this firm has got a very high fixed cost. You can see 20 lakh rupees. Because this firm had got a high operating leverage, so this fixed cost has to be there, but it has to be up to a reasonable level. This fixed cost has to be there, but it has to be up to a reasonable level. If this firm, as compared to, if we would have said that if firm XYZ also had got a fixed cost of rupees 10 lakhs, higher the fixed cost, higher the operating leverage, of course. If this firm would also have got 10 lakhs of fixed cost, in that situation, its EBIT would have been 25 lakh rupees. And in that situation, it would have got a lower operating leverage and a high profitability. Right? Right? So XYZ has a higher degree of operating leverage. In this company, the EBIT is likely to vary more with the fluctuation of sales because a high amount is going in the fixed cost. So if the sales will fluctuate now from 50, if it becomes 45 or if it becomes 42, you can see that the firm's profitability, the firm's earning before interest and taxes will go considerably down because it has got a high fixed cost. Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay. So the concept is clear now. Now let us try and understand it with the help of some of more practical questions. The following information is related to Sunshine Limited. Sales have been given to you. Variable expenses at the rate of 35% has been given to you. So the contribution is 2,60,000. Sales are rupees 4 lakhs. Variable expenses at the rate of 35% is rupees 1,40,000. So contribution is 2,60,000. Out of this, they are paying fixed expenses of rupees 1,80,000. So earning before interest and taxes is rupees 80,000. Again, they've taken a loan, so the interest is rupees 10,000 and taxable income is 70,000. So taxable income has to come down. It is interest here and then taxable income should be here. You are required to submit the following to the management of the company. What percentage will taxable income increase if sales increase by 6%? Use combined leverage. You will say that, ma'am, you've not taught us combined leverage. Combined leverage is nothing but if you multiply the operating leverage with financial leverage, you will get combined leverage. Or if you want to directly take the formula, it is contribution divided by earnings before taxes. Contribution divided by earnings before taxes. You can find out combined leverage. Now here I am more interested in doing the interpretation. Then we have the next question. What percentage will EBIT increase if there is a 10% increase in sales? Use operating leverage. What percentage will taxable income increase if EBIT increases by 6%? Use financial leverage. So if we have to find all the three leverages, first of all, to find out what is going to be the impact, right? We have to first find out all the three leverages. So let us find out. Can you just find it out for me? No, it is interest only and then taxable income is in the next line. Taxable income is 70,000. Interest is 10,000. But by typing mistake, taxable income has come up. Right? It should be here. Now you can find out. Can you just work for me? Operating leverage, financial leverage and combined leverage, please. Are you calculating? Because it should not take this much of time. Are you calculating? Okay, it is simple. If I have to find out operating leverage, the formula is contribution upon EBIT. Contribution is 260, EBIT is 80. So 260 divided by 80 should be close to 3.25. 3.25, right? And so that's my operating leverage. Now what do I want to understand from this? It says that what percentage will EBIT increase if there is a 10% increase in sales? So if the sales will increase by 10%, using operating leverage, we understand that EBIT will increase by 32.5%. If sales will increase by 10%, because my operating leverage is 3.25, so the EBIT will increase by 32.5%. You're able to understand? You're able to understand here. You can try it out also. No. See, if the sales are going to increase by 10%, so it would be 4,40,000 here. You can take 35% of 4,40,000 as the variable expenses and find out contribution. Then we have the fixed expenses will remain the same as 1,80,000. Your EBIT will increase by what amount? I'm not carrying my calculator. Should I? Just a second. EBIT is 95,600. Now 95,600 means 15,600 above 80,000. No. That is not the correct answer. Just wait a second. Yeah, what I'm saying is if sales increase by 10%, so it would be 4,40,000. 35% of that would be, what is 2.69 here? 35 of that would be 1,54,000. 1,54,000 if I reduce from 4,40,000, I'm getting 2,86,000. From this 2,80,000 I reduce 1,80,000 to find out 1,06,000. 1,06,000 is my revised EBT, is my revised EBIT, and my earlier EBIT was 80,000. So I've got a gain of 26,000. I've got a gain of 26,000. Is it getting clear? Okay, when the sales increased by 6%, you were calculating. So this 26,000 is on 80,000. So that is equals to 3.25%, right? That is equals to 3.25%. So 32.5% rather. So that's what we are trying to say. I have to use operating leverage only in the second case, Amrita. You have been given that use operating leverage in the second case. So you don't have to take the first case here. You have to take the second case because here you have to use the operating leverage. Okay. So when the sales increase by 10%, the EBIT will increase by 32.5% of that. Similarly, you can find out the financial leverage. Financial leverage here is EBIT upon EBT. So 80,000 divided by 70,000 would be your financial leverage. And then it says what percentage will taxable income increase if EBIT increases by 6%. So it is 80,000 divided by 70,000 is equals to 1.14. And if EBIT increases by 6%, the earnings before taxes will increase by 6.85%, 6.86%, right? How did I calculate? Because it was 1.143 multiplied by 6%, you will get this. Now similarly, how do we find out combined leverage? In order to find out combined leverage, you can either multiply 3.25 with 1.143. So you get 3.714. Or what you can do, you can simply take contribution upon taxable income. So 3.714 is your combined leverage. Then we go to the next question. It says that what percentage will your taxable income increase if the sales increase by 6%? Now just try and understand the question. Combined leverage is showing you the relationship between sales and the taxable income. Combined leverage is showing you the relationship between sales and taxable income. Operating leverage is showing you the relationship between sales and EBIT. And financial leverage is showing you the relationship between EBIT and taxable income. So that's how the combined leverage is calculated, where you multiply the operating leverage with the financial leverage, you find the combined leverage. Is it getting clear? So your operating leverage will have an impact on EBIT. Your financial leverage will have an impact on taxable income with the increase in EBIT. And your combined leverage will have an impact on taxable income with the increase in sales. Should I move to the next question? The concept is simple. Now we are trying to, because the concept is too simple, so it has been asked to you in various questions where a lot of information was missing and you had to derive that information to find out the leverages, right? The following balance sheet of Honeywell Limited has been given to you. You have been given liabilities, equity capital, 10% debentures, retained earnings and current liabilities. And you have been given assets as fixed assets and current assets. Now you know in order to find out leverages, you need income statement and not the balance sheet. But the balance sheet has been given to you, so you will have to first find out the income statement, right? Company's total assets turnover ratio is 6.25 times. Assets turnover ratio is calculated on, every turnover ratio is calculated on sales, right? So if I have to find out a total assets turnover ratio, the formula would be sales upon total assets, right? So now I have got the total assets, I have to find out sales. So it should be 6 lakhs multiplied by 2.5 times. Right? Because total assets turnover is 2.5. Are you able to understand, or should I show you the computation? Okay. Similarly, now once you have got the figure of sales, now we have to let us understand the other ratios which have been given to us. The fixed operating costs are rupees 2 lakhs. So the fixed cost has been given to us, and variable operating cost is 40%. Once we've got the sales figure, we can find out the contribution margin if variable operating cost is given to us, right? Sales minus variable operating cost is equals to contribution margin. Sales is coming as 15 lakhs. Operating cost is 40% of 15 lakhs, that is equals to 6 lakhs. So the contribution margin would be 9 lakh rupees. I'll be showing you the calculation. And 2 lakh rupees is the fixed operating expenses. So my earning before interest and taxes, this is rupees, how much? Main numbers bhul gayi. So total assets are 6 lakhs. Total assets turnover ratio is 2.5. So the sales would be 15 lakhs. We have been given that the variable cost is 40% of the total turnover. So variable cost would be 6 lakhs and contribution would be 9 lakhs. We have been given that the fixed cost is rupees 2 lakhs. So the earning before interest and taxes is rupees 7 lakhs. Now you would say that, ma'am, where did you get this figure of interest? In the balance sheet, we were given that the company has got 10% debentures of rupees 2,40,000. So if the company has got 10% debentures of rupees 2,40,000, it has to pay interest of rupees 24,000 every year. So in that situation, we have to reduce this interest of 24,000 to find out earnings before tax. We have been given the tax rate of 30%. That was given to us in the question. So we apply this tax rate of 30% on earnings before tax to find out the profit after tax of 4,73,200. Right? Is it okay? Is it okay up to this point? If it is okay up to this point, then finding out leverages is not a very difficult exercise. Right? Because then you have to just place the formula. Operating leverage is equals to contribution upon EBIT. Financial leverage is equals to EBIT upon EBT. Combined leverage is equals to contribution upon EBT. And you have been able to calculate the leverages. Right? Then we go to the next part of the question. The question says, determine the likely level of EBIT if EPS is 6. Now, if the earning per share is 6, we have to find out what would be the level of EBIT in the given situation. What would be the level of EBIT in the given situation? So now it's a reverse story. EPS is there. Now EPS is rupees 6. How many shares are there? Because it is earning per share. If I come to know the number of shares, I can find out earnings after taxes because there are no preference shares. Very good. So there are 18,000 shares, right? 18,000 multiplied by 6 will give me what? It will give me earnings after taxes. Right? It is earnings after taxes. Now if I have to find out earnings before taxes, what do I have to do? If earnings after taxes is 1,08,000, it is equals to 70%. What would be 100%? If 70% is 1,08,000, what would be 100%? Who will tell me? Who will tell me? Can you calculate this? Nobody can do this? Very good. 1,54,285. Very good. This is my earnings before taxes. To this, if I add interest, I will find out earnings before interest and taxes. And interest is a fixed amount, that is rupees 24,000. right? So it is not the front calculation, we should be able to do the backward calculation as well. Fine? Can we move to the next question? Okay. Now again, similarly, here some more information is given to you and you are required to prepare the income statements. Now the leverages have been given to you and you have to find out the income statement. So as I said that because the formula is very simple, so either they can ask you a question on interpreting the results, or they can give you some information and ask you to find out other information, to find out the missing information. The following data is related to X Limited, Y Limited and Z Limited for the current financial year. Variable cost as a percentage of sales has been given to you. Interest expense has been given to you. Degree of operating leverage has been given to you. And degree of financial leverage has been given to you. Corporate tax rate has been given to you. You are required to prepare the income statements. Now here you would say that how are we going to do it? It's not very difficult. It's not very difficult. What is common between operating leverage and financial leverage? The formula. What is common? EBIT. Perfect. Very good. So if I've got these two numbers, I think I can find out some point of EBIT. I can find out some relationship here. Now let me explain. We have been given, the interest expense has also been given, let me use one more information. Interest expense has also been given to me as this. And the difference between EBIT and EBT is interest. Remember that. And interest has been given to us. This can be of great use to us. So how are we going to calculate? Degree of financial leverage is equals to 3. And the formula is EBIT divided by EBT. And EBT is equals to EBIT minus interest. Right? So if 3 is equals to EBIT divided by EBIT minus interest, I can find out EBIT. It is equals to 3 EBIT minus 60,000 is equals to EBIT. So then 2 EBIT is equals to 60,000. EBIT is equals to 30,000. Now once I've got EBIT, I can know earnings before taxes. I can know contribution margin also. Right? Right? So the idea was to find out EBIT first. Clear? Any confusions here? No confusions. So once you know EBIT, you can find out, with the help of operating leverage, you can find out the contribution margin. 5 is equals to contribution upon EBIT. So contribution is equals to 1,50,000. How 60,000? With 60,000. Okay. See, just try to understand, Amrita, that interest figure was given to us. This 20,000 was given to us. And what is the relationship between EBIT and EBT? Between EBIT and EBT, the relationship is EBIT minus interest is equals to earnings before taxes. Right? Right? So now the formula is EBIT divided by EBT. So I can write EBIT divided by EBIT minus interest is equals to, it was 3. So EBIT divided by EBIT minus 20,000 is equals to 3. So that means EBIT is equals to 3 EBIT, I've done the cross multiplication, minus 60,000. That's how we got 60,000. Right? So then 60,000 is equals to 2 EBIT. So 30,000 is equals to EBIT. Clear? And once we've got EBIT, we can do the entire calculation, because now we can find out contribution. Contribution, because the degree of operating leverage has been given to us, which is contribution upon EBIT. So contribution is 1,50,000. Now we were given that variable cost is 70% of sales. Variable cost is 70% of sales. So contribution is 30%. Contribution is 30%. If 30% is equals to 1,20,000, then what would be 100%? 100% would be 5 lakh rupees. Right? Now we have got sales, we have got variable cost, we have got contribution, we have got EBIT. So we can take fixed costs as a balancing figure, isn't it? So now the sales are 5 lakhs less variable cost 70%, that is 3,50,000. So the contribution is 1,50,000. Less fixed cost 1,20,000. So we get EBIT of 30,000. Less interest expense of 20,000. We get EBT of 10,000. Less corporate tax at the rate of 30%. So we've got earnings after tax of rupees 7,000. We've got earnings after tax of rupees 7,000. The question was asked in the December 15 examination. It said that Bling Limited has supplied the following data. Operating leverage has been given to you. Financial leverage has been given to you. Earning per share has also been given to you. Market price per share has been given to you. And capital is 20,000 shares. Now once you've got earning per share and you've got capital, okay, so you can find out earnings after tax, isn't it? It is proposed to raise a loan of rupees 50 lakhs at 18% for expansion. After expansion, the sales will increase by 25% and fixed cost will increase by rupees 3 lakhs. You are required to work out the market price per share after expansion, assuming tax rate at 50%. Now here again you have to do the reverse calculations. You again have, because earning per share has been given to you, capital has been given to you, so you can find earnings after taxes. Now once you've got earnings after taxes, you can find out earnings before taxes also, because here the tax rate has been given to you as 50%. Once you find out the earnings before taxes, you can find out EBIT by using the financial leverage. Once you've got EBIT, you can find out contribution margin by using the operating leverage. Right? And then if we raise the loan and if we increase the sales by 25%, so the contribution margin will also increase by 25%. And then you can do the calculations. I hope what I'm saying is getting clear to everybody. It's on the similar lines but with some little different information. So I leave it for your self-study in that situation. Similar kind of a question. Can I? Okay. Yes, you need practice to grab the concepts. Then we have financial leverage. Now we've got theory questions also here. Financial leverage is caused due to fixed financial costs. Comment. So the answer is true. That financial leverage is definitely because of the fixed financial charges in the firm's income stream, because by adding a small amount of interest, which is a tax deductible expense, we are able to increase our earnings available for equity shareholders by a multiple. So therefore it is the variability of earnings available for equity shareholders by adding some interest. So we use the financial leverage to magnify the impact of changes in the earning per share, in the earnings before interest and taxes on the earning per share, right? So we obtain the funds at a fixed cost and we try to increase the returns available to the equity shareholders. Now consider the following information of Sunrise. EBIT has been given to you, EBT has been given to you, fixed cost has been given to you. You have to calculate the percentage change in EPS if sales increase by 2%. So you have to find out combined leverage over here. You have to find out combined leverage over here, and for that you need contribution margin. And how do you find out contribution margin? If you add the fixed cost to EBIT, you would be able to find the contribution margin. If you add the fixed cost to EBIT, you would be able to find the contribution margin. And once you've got the contribution margin, you can find out the combined leverage, right? And once you've got the combined leverage, you can find out the percentage change in EPS if the sales increase by 2%. So you're getting my point. It's just being familiar with these numbers. It's just being familiar with these numbers, and you would be able to solve the questions easily. Fine? Now again, we've got lots of questions here which I may not be discussing with you in the class because there are so many of them. But you can do these questions. You have to find out operating leverage and financial leverages in the two situations. I'm not discussing it here. You can ask me in the next class in case you have any questions. Summarized balance sheet of Lilly Limited is given over here. The assets turnover ratio, so similar kind of a question we've already done. We are done to calculate the EBIT if EPS is 6. Here it has been 1 rupee, 2 rupee and 0 rupee. Now I want you to do this particular calculation of 0 rupees. And if it is not clear to you while you do the computation, you can ask me in the next class, because this is something which is interesting. Remaining you can do. But the 0 rupees is something which you will have to really, take some time to understand. So these are the questions which I'm leaving for your self-study. A lot of them now. You can come up with your questions in the next class. And this is the question which came in the last examination, I think in the old syllabus. Following data of Anant Limited is given below. Total sales is 14,500 units and the selling price is rupees 20 per unit. So you can find out the total sales. Fixed costs have been given to you. Variable cost per unit has been given to you. Debt at 11% interest has been given to you. Equity shares, the face value of rupees 10 each has been given to you. Tax applicable rate is given to you at 30%. How much would be sales? Simple. Earnings? Simple. Earnings here means earnings before interest and taxes, and interest. Again a simple question. If EBIT doubles, what will be the new level of EBT? So if there is a 100% increase in EBIT, what would be the level of EBT? You have to use which concept over here? If EBIT doubles, what will be the new level of EBT? Which concept will tell us this? Where will we look for the answers? Are we together? Financial leverage. Perfect. So because the relationship between EBIT and EBT is being given by financial leverage, so if EBIT doubles, a new level of EBT can be found out by using the concept of financial leverage. We can also find out the operating and the combined leverages in this particular question. Now here, this is your homework question. Those were your self-study questions. This is your homework question. You have to solve this question and send it to me through email, and we will be discussing your answers in the next class. So please note down this June 16 examination question in the old syllabus is your homework question. Please make it a point to solve this question, because you're not even going to get guideline answers for the old syllabus, because this was the last attempt for the old syllabus. So this is the question paper that you have to solve for yourself. And because if you would be doing these questions together as homework questions, I think it would be easier for you to discuss your answers in the classes and to learn from each other's mistakes. So whenever I give you an old syllabus question for homework, make sure that you do it. So can I move to the next concept now? It is EBIT EPS analysis. It is EBIT EPS analysis. Now what is this? What is this concept all about? See, the thing is, we have seen that there is a relationship between EBIT and EPS. There is a relationship between EBIT and EPS, and by adding leverage in our business, we can increase the EPS considerably by a small increase in EBIT, right? That is what we understood when we discussed the concept of financial leverage. But you know what happens basically, there are businesses in which they want to know that, okay, even if we increase the amount of interest in business, even if we change the capital structure, we want to know that level of EBIT where our EPS remains the same. We want to know that level of EBIT in two different combinations of capital structure where the earning per share remains the same. Now this is something, why we want to know it, because we want to know to what extent can we change our capital structure by we can keep our earning per share as constant, and for that how much of EBIT do we need to earn, right? So that is what is the question that we want to answer. So this is also called the point of indifference. It is also called by one more name. One of the students had asked me that particular question, that what is the meaning of this. I'm not able to recall right now over here. Equivalency of EBIT, right? It is also called equivalency of EBIT in two different situations, or the point of indifference, right? So it refers to that EBIT level at which EPS remains the same irrespective of different combinations of debt and equity. Where at one time we would be taking only two combinations. It's not that different combinations means 5 different combinations. We're talking about 2 different combinations. At this level of EBIT, the rate of return on capital employed is equal to the cost of debt. The rate on return on capital employed is equal to the cost of debt, and this is also known as the break-even level of EBIT for alternative financial plans. So it is the minimum amount of EBIT that you have to earn in order to get a desired level of earning per share in different kinds of combinations. So how do we find out that point of indifference? Let us assume that in 2 different combinations, the break-even point for EBIT, earning before interest and taxes, in order to make EPS constant. Now, in order to find out this number of EBIT, earning before interest and taxes, let us assume that EBIT is X. Let us assume that earning before interest and taxes is X in both the situations, because that is to be same, right? So let us assume that the EBIT is X at the indifference point. In the first situation, if I have taken any interest, I will be reducing that from EBIT. So it is EBIT minus interest. Once I reduce interest from EBIT, the next step what I do is I reduce tax from it. So X minus R1 multiplied by 1 minus tax rate. This will give me, X minus R1 will give me profit before tax. X minus R1 multiplied by 1 minus T will give me profit after tax. Once I've got profit after tax, from that I will reduce the preference dividend and divide it by the number of shares, I will find out earning per share. I will find out earning per share in situation 1, right? Similarly for situation 2, I will write X minus R2, which will give me the earning before taxes, multiplied by 1 minus tax rate. This will give me earning after taxes minus preference dividend divided by the number of shares in the second alternative. That gives me the EBIT of the second situation. I just have to equate the two. Now let me take it with the help of an example. Sales and earnings before interest and taxes for Ramswarup Company Limited during 2013 were 1750 and 450 respectively. So sales were 17,50,000 and EBIT was 4,50,000. During 2013, interest expenses were 4,000 and preference dividends were 10,000. Okay. These fixed charges are expected to continue during 2014. An expansion is planned which will require 1,75,000, which is expected to increase the EBIT by rupees 1 lakh from 4,50,000 to 5,50,000. Now company needs how much? 1,75,000. The company is considering following financing alternatives: issue 5,000 shares of common stock to net the firm 35 per share. So 35 per share multiplied by 5,000 shares, so that would be around 10,05,000 rupees. 1,05,000 rupees. The firm currently has, it will give you 1,75,000 rupees. The firm currently has 40,000 shares of common stock outstanding. or issue 1,75,000 of 15-year bonds at 8%. Sinking fund payments on these bonds will commence in 2013. Issue 1,75,000 of 8.5% preferred stock. You are required to calculate EPS for 2014 at the expected earnings before interest and tax level of 5,50,000 for each financing alternative. So that you can find out that for what will be the expected EBIT, it would be 5,50,000. So if the financing is under alternative 1, what is going to be earning per share? If it is going to be under alternative 2, what is going to be earning per share? If it is alternative number 3, what is earning per share? So you simply have to put in the numbers as per the given statements, and you can find out. Let me show you the solution here. So EBIT will be 5,50,000, whatever is the alternative. In the first, you have got the equity shares because the company already is paying interest of 4,000 rupees, so the company will keep on paying that. Taxable income will be 546. Then the company will pay taxes, and income after taxes is 273. The company has been paying a dividend on preference shares of 10,000 rupees. So earnings right now available under alternative number 1 would be 2,63,000. Number of equity shares existing is 40,000. 5,000 extra we are issuing, so it will make it 45,000. So earning per share would be 5.84 rupees. So we have alternative 2 and we have alternative 3. We can work on these alternatives and we can see that the earning per share is maximum in case of alternative 2. Now let me go to the second part of the question. It says calculate the equivalency level of earnings. Now as I said, equivalency level of earnings is equals to the indifference level of EBIT. Calculate the equivalency level of earnings before interest and taxes between debt and common stock alternatives. Now debt and common stock alternative means alternative 1 and alternative 2. Between these alternatives, I have to find out the equivalency level of EBIT. That means I have to find out the EBIT at the indifference point. So I will use my formula. X minus R1 multiplied by 1 minus T minus preference dividend divided by N1 is equals to X minus R2 multiplied by T2 minus preference dividend divided by N2. So here I will first assume let the EBIT be rupees X. Let the EBIT be X, right? So again I will place the figures here which I have used in the earlier calculation also. X minus 4,000, which is the interest which I am required to pay in this situation, multiplied by 1 minus tax rate, so 1 minus 0.5 is 0.5, minus preference dividend of rupees 10,000 divided by 45,000 is equals to X minus 4,000, which is interest, minus 14,000, which is under the bond, the new bonds that I am issuing, so I have to pay interest on that as well, minus 1 minus tax rate minus existing preference dividend. And here, because I am not issuing shares, I am only issuing debentures, so the number of shares would remain 40,000 only. Solving this equation, I find that X would be 1,50,000. So if the earning before interest and taxes would be 1,50,000, in that situation, whether I borrow or I issue new shares, my earning per share would remain the same. Whether I borrow through debentures or I issue new equity shares, my earning per share will remain constant. Is it clear? Is it clear? You can do this calculation. You can calculate it at 1,50,000. So if you take it at 1,50,000, your earning per share would remain the same. 1,50,000 minus 4,000 is equals to 1,44,000 multiplied by 0.5. Let us do it. Why not? 144 multiplied by 0.5 is equals to 72 minus 10 divided by 45. Earning per share is 1.37. And if you look at the second alternative, at 1,50,000 minus 4,000 minus 14,000 is 132 multiplied by 0.5 is 66,000 minus 10,000 divided by 40,000 is equals to 1.4. So yeah, Ganesh is saying that calculation is not a problem, but you need to be habitual with the formula. Of course, yes. Not only the formula. See, this particular formula has got no big rocket science. It is the same thing that we have been doing. We have just assumed EBIT to be X, and the remaining things we have done it in the previous slide also, right? So the more important thing is to have a feel for the numbers. Not only to be habitual, But yeah, and the feel will come by habit only. That is also a fact. Now, in the present situation, I tell you, I am in a situation where I'm able to relate finance or these concepts with anything and everything in life. I can tell you that I can relate these concepts. Like right now, I gave you a very small example of a lady taking home tuitions and appointing a maid and using the concept of leverage. Right? So you can use these concepts actually in anything and everything of your life, but you should be familiar with these concepts, as rightly said by Ganesh. So for that, it's not something which is very difficult. For that, you have to do a lot of reading and practicing lots of questions. Then you will become very, very familiar with the numbers. Okay? With the formula, with the concept. Because the concept is so good. The concept of leverage is something that we are following in our day-to-day life. It is something that we actually do. We always tend to think that, okay, now if I'm doing this, what is the benefit that I'm getting out of it? You always want the benefit to be more than cost. Isn't it? And for that, you're ready to take some part of risk as well. That is the concept of leverage. That is what is the concept of leverage. So I think with this, we have finished off with the concept of capital structure. You've got some more questions for practicing over here. We've got lots of questions in this particular chapter because, as I said, that this is a favorite topic of examiner, and almost in every examination we've had questions from this topic, either from indifference point or from operating leverage or from financial leverage or from in any of the ways. So we've got lots of practice questions, and because we are expecting a question in the examination next time also, so I want you to prepare this concept very, very thoroughly and be familiar with these formulae, because they're not very difficult. They're just two formulae that you have to remember, and that too is coming very clearly and straightforwardly from the income statement. So if you remember the income statement, I think you can understand these relationships well. Anything that you want to say? Anybody? So if it is all, then you have a good time to practice as well. I will be uploading this PPT by tomorrow morning, and you have to prepare it for exam preparatory also, I believe. So not this one. I think if you're okay, we can take it for exam preparatory. Otherwise, we will take up to the previous class in the exam preparatory. Whichever way is comfortable. Chaliye, theek hai. So we'll be taking up to the last class. The capital structure theories will be coming in the exam preparatory, but not the leverage concept, right? So start preparing now for exam preparatory and start revising these concepts. We see you in the next class on coming Tuesday, and in between in the exam preparatory on Saturday. Good night to all of you. Take care of yourselves and start studying. It is now the third chapter that I have already finished. So I'm sure that you've got a lot of material now to study, to revise, to work upon. So now start increasing your studying time and put in a lot of effort in understanding these concepts, and then you would be enjoying the next concept also. Because if the foundation would be stronger, then the understanding would be better in the next classes. So therefore, put in some time in understanding these